In this system, we are saying why we retain the single member constituencies and the county seats, the regional clusters or special seats are created where voters are asked to vote for political parties. And of course, lists that shall be submitted by political parties. These special seats are then taken and filled proportionately based on the number of votes garnered by each party. The mixed member representation system would strengthen, first of all, political parties, because political parties, even the ones that are not so big and they may not have enough seats, then they can get into parliament through the party list that have been voted for during the elections. And we also, then that will call for doing away with the closed party list, so that we do party list after elections, after they have been voted for. And it also ensure participation of voters in how party lists are made. And we are suggesting in the alternative, if that does not happen, the system does not change, there is need for participation of either members of political parties or voters in making of the party list, as opposed to just selecting people to go into party list. And our proposal is that the party list may be developed through members of the party voting, and preferably through a delegate system. This will ensure meaningful participation by political party members, and it should be close to political party members. Then number 5, on the matter of political parties, strengthening political parties, and we are proposing commitment of the political class to the political parties' code of conduct and their party policy documents, including their party constitution. We note that the code regulates the behavior of the members and supporters of political parties to promote good governance and eradicate political malpractice. However, as opposed to many other code of conduct, we have a political parties code of conduct that have no sanctions. And therefore, we are proposing that the political party code of conduct should have sanction beyond the only one sanction given, which is deregistration of a political party, which is a lengthy process. It cannot address the immediate issues when they arise, especially during an electoral process. So we are proposing that the sanctions be brought in the political parties code of conduct, so that we facilitate enforcement and ensure that there is effectiveness in compliance. It is also noted that under the Elections Act, for example, the Electoral Code of Conduct has sanctioned and it is enforced. Therefore, there is need for the political class and also to enhance the Act and to respect the political class, to respect and adhere to the party constitution and the Code of Conduct. And I note as an explanation also that sometimes even the parties themselves may not have control on what their members say out there. So the sanctions should actually also be geared towards individuals who make statements or behave in a certain way that sometimes that are not sanctioned even by the party. It's just a person, bad behavior, which should then be regulated through sanctions. The other matter in terms of entrenching of offices, we take cognizance of what the discussions are. And one of the issues we are raising is that for us to strengthen the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, we propose that the office be considered under Chapter 15 of the Constitution as a dependent office under Chapter 15. We also propose increased funding because the mandate is big, but the fund is limited. In regards to establishment of the Office of Leader of Opposition to sit in Parliament and to address the candidates who lose elections and also those who win. The candidates who lose go through devastating periods, and there's no systems to support the people who participate in election, yet they came out to really support governance and the democratic participation in elections. Then some of them go through very difficult moments. Others go into depression. Others go into situation to financial crisis and all that. At least psychosocial support for those ones. And for the winners, I think they should also be supported how to behave after winning, so that there's a bit of moderation, so that we maintain national unity as far as after elections. Because winning also can be difficult. There are people who may not exactly know what to do with the win. They behave in a different manner. So it is important also to support those ones. So we also, the last point is that ORPP proposes fast tracking of the reconstitution of IBC in order to avert possible constitutional crisis, as well as address critical outstanding processes. That is the end of our summary of presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Nderitu, and for that eloquent presentation.
Yeah.
Let me just, okay, sorry. Let me just go, then Waziri will come. This fund, the 0.3%.
Yes.
And I agree with you, if possible, we need to have it entrenched in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Okay? But do you think the non-compliance with this requirement can simply be attributed to the fact that this fund is not entrenched in the Constitution? That's not down.
Yeah.
What would happen even after entrenching it in the Constitution if a rogue government refuses to comply? Yeah, because it's now more than how many years? 10 years or so since this law came into being. And the government has consistently declined to comply with the requirement to disburse these funds, even where the parliament actually appropriates the money. Okay? Okay? But more critically, it is never appropriated. I'm sure you know. Okay? As a result of sailing, so-called, and the money you guys here, we share our budget. And now it's the majority. So what has been the reason why this money is not availed? Please help us understand if the cure is only in entrenching it in the Constitution. Finally, on my part, is the ORPP. It's a very critical office. Very critical. And in fact, if you ask me, I wouldn't mind having it entrenched in the Constitution. But it must be reminded that its purpose is to protect political parties. Because our democracy is still very young. And most of our parties are vulnerable. So they need to be protected. And the office is at the center of the protection of these parties, and indeed of multi-party democracy. What do you make of the presence of the Political Parties Liaison Committee? Do you think its role so far has been satisfactory? Do you think there are things we can do to have it strengthened? Do you think its structure is proper? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I want to agree with you that we need to consider the entrenchment of that fund in the Constitution and the office. Kenya is a multi-party democracy, but as we speak, there's a serious threat to our multi-party democracy. One way of killing our multi-party democracy is starving the political parties of funding. And what Honorable Piwanda is talking about has been there. There's been quite some deliberate attempt to not to disburse the funds and therefore not to finance political parties to be effective as vehicles through which Kenya as a country can realize its political aspirations. The second threat to democracy has been the issue of cannibalization of our political parties. There's a deliberate attempt to cannibalize political parties in our country. And the Jubilee Party has been the main target, as you are aware, ODM also, and other opposition parties. And we are not just talking of the opposition, but even in the ruling coalition itself, we know that there are parties like Ford Kenya and ANC that are in danger or that are being arm twisted to collapse into UDA. And we're in danger of actually... Now, what I want to find out is, I've looked at your presentation. I've not seen much on party hopping. And this is where we are finding members of parliament moving to another party without going back to their base or their constituencies for a fresh mandate. And this happened before. There have been proposals here on how that can be dealt with in terms of returning hygiene to our politics. And that political hygiene can come from very clear provisions that if you move from your party, you're elected on this party, on this manifesto. If you are to go to another party, then you should resign and go back to the people for fresh election. What do you say about that and the proposals in amendment of the Political Parties Act to ensure that happens? Thank you.
Thank you, ORPP. I'll just pick up from where Honorable Eugene has ended on the rights of political parties vis-a-vis individual rights. You know, our constitution has been built amongst the most progressive constitutions, not just in Africa, but in the world. And part of what has made this constitution to be built as the most progressive was Article 4 of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights. I want to draw reference to Article 32 on the freedom of conscience, belief and opinion, where that says that every person has a right, either individually, in community, with others, in public or in private, to manifest any religion, belief, true worship, practice, all that. A person shall not be compelled to act or engage in any act that is contrary to that person's belief or even religion. The same article, Article 4, freedom of association, that every person has the right to freedom of association, which includes the right to form, join, or participate in activities of an association of any kind. That includes political parties. The same constitution, in Article 38, gives Kenyans individually political rights, that you have every citizen is free to make political choices. That vis-a-vis the question of the rights of political parties, which to me are more of corporate rights. What, in your opinion, ORPP constitutionally has a higher ranking? Is it individual political rights for me as an individual, that I have the right to associate with whoever I want to associate? Or is it the question that has been spoken to as political sanity within political parties? Can I be forced to leave my party, UDA, today because, for instance, I have associated myself with a position that the leader of minority has taken in parliament, that as an individual, I have made a choice, and probably could also be a matter of belief? Would you then say that my political party, UDA's rights, override my individual political rights and freedoms as enshrined under Article 4 of the Constitution? Two, you have spoken about a mix of the electoral system with what you're calling proportional representation and the first past the post. I'd really want to understand how exactly would that proportional representation cure the problem that we were trying to address with a group that was ahead of you called Gamawado, on the question of one man, one vote. Actually, just one man, one vote, even without going to shilling, since you are dealing with political offices, just to ensure that there is equitable representation, because I honestly believe that there should and there must be equitable representation, so that every member of parliament represents an equal, almost equal number of constituents, not the situation that we are in today, where you find a member of parliament who has been elected by 5,000 people and has the same voting rights, the same vote as another member, for instance, a member for Ruiru constituency who has been elected by 180,000 voters. And they have the same, the equality of the vote then is not there when it comes to representation. How then would this system that you're proposing of a mix cure that problem? You have something, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Catherine Wambilianga, member of this committee. Though I've come in late, but I'll make a few observations having gone through your list. I am totally in agreement with your proposal of fast-tracking the constitution of the IEBC. But on the other side, you have not given the criteria categorically on how you want this proposed. You're only proposing that a member of your ORPP should be there. But what about the other criteria? And secondly, you have also given this proposal, you're backing our proposal on the two-third gender role. Fine, you have said nothing about it. You have just said we do a multi-sectoral committee. Give us the proper details of what you mean by multi-sectoral. What is it professional? What qualifications would you want to be included? Thank you.
And you don't have to give that all that now. You can still actually enrich your document after this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So under 5 minutes, please respond.
Thank you. I will comment on a few and ask.
Sorry. There's one more issue from Honorable Kongo Mogeni.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Registrar, for your presentation. I just wanted to follow up from where Leader of Majority left, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, on this issue of political rights. And I think you are the right person to help us. You know how we construct our constitution. We promote its purpose, its values, its principles. Now, following from the question that has been posed by Honorable Ichung'wah, our political rights, fundamental rights, can be limited as provided for in the Constitution. One of that limitation is in Article 103. You can belong to a party, you can be elected as a member of parliament, but there is that article that is entitled the vacation of office of a member of parliament. So you can belong to a party, as Honorable Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah says, but there is a way you can lose your seat. One of them is in Article 103, sub-Article 1E, where you are deemed to have resigned from a party. And then Clause 3 says, Parliament shall enact a legislation to provide circumstances under which a political party where a member will be deemed for purposes of Clause 1E to have resigned from the party. Now, you are the custodian of the enforcement of this article. I think either Section 14, if I remember well, of the political parties. Is it 14? Yes. Says if a member supports the ideology, interest, or policies of another political party, he will be deemed to have resigned from a political party. So the Constitution itself is saying if you belong to this club of a political party, you don't support its ideology, its policies, you are deemed to have resigned. So, Madam Registrar, we are here, this forum is discussing issues of discipline, political parties, party hopping. We are now multi-party democracy. You can exercise your rights under Article 38. If you are not happy with the political party A, it's not like in Kano days where we had one party. You can quit, go back to the people, you will get your political rights, your belief, your conscience, you win through another party. The person to help us is you. Have you tried to enforce Article 14, or have you found yourself in circumstances where you are supposed to enforce Section 14 as read with Article 103, so that you help us in maintaining discipline within political parties? 2, I support you. You need to be entrenched in the Constitution. Have you faced intimidation or pressure from either the current government or even the previous government in discharging your functions under Article 103 and Section 14? Then finally, you have mentioned the critical role that agents play, and we are doing this for posterity, not for UDA, not for Azimio. This is just for posterity. On the issue of political agents. I like your proposal. We should restrict them to either a political party or independent candidates. Do you think there would be wisdom if we proposed that agents be picked by political parties, but budgetary allocation to pay them be part of the mandate of IEBC, so that Parliament here can appropriate money for paying agents, the parties pick, but IEBC pays them? Do you think that is something you can support? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Proceed, please.
Thank you. I will really talk about a few issues, and then I'll leave us my assistant registrars also to talk on the others. Let me start with the one of the political parties fund, was by Honorable Wadai. It is true that we have never realized the 0.3% since the inception of the fund in 2007. But I want to note that the fund has been growing over time, and giving in my tenure in the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. When I joined the office, I made 370 million as the political parties fund for everything. Right now, we are at close to 1.5 billion, meaning every year we have been growing the fund, and Treasury has been growing the fund, and government and appropriation in Parliament also. But we are not yet there, because our proposals are usually around 5 billion. Yeah, so it means we are not yet there. But we appreciate the fact that the fund has been growing over time. The reason why we are proposing the 0.3 to be entrenched into the Constitution is because there has been several attempts by different people, activists, wanting to remove even the 0.3. They say it's too much. But from where we sit, we think once it's entrenched in the Constitution, probably that many attempts, and it's not once, but it's severally, attempts for people going to court and wanting the 0.3 to be reconsidered so that it moves. That is the reason. But I think it's not the only reason why we can realize the 0.3. There's also commitment and also improvement of economy. We all know that sometimes we don't have adequate funds for everything. That's why we appreciate any time the fund is grown. So our proposal to the government of the day is to at least have a commitment every year. We are adding some money on top of what is there, so that progressively we capture it in our budget, and we realize that in the perception of the fiscal year and the problems, probably financial problems, inadequate to respond to is the talked about cannibalization of political parties. But I want to first of all, the cannibalization is not done by the Registrar of Political Parties. It is actually the cannibalization happens within the political class. outside the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. So you have little to do when people are cannibalizing each other outside you, but when they actually are alive, as we apply the requirement of the law. And we cannot hold politics by the neck, because politics must happen out there, and we cannot really come and regulate individual behaviors and how people want to come together. However, we have an obligation as an institution to check what the party, and you can see we are saying we need commitment from political parties themselves and political class to follow their own constitution, their own policies, and the Political Parties Act. Because sometimes, even so much has been done, you realize that what the parties are telling you to do as the Registrar of Political Parties it is not even in their constitution, or it's not even in the Political Parties Act. They are taking you to a direction, and then you are attacked when you actually do not go that direction. But our commitment is to the law, your own party constitution, and also the requirement of the Political Parties Fund. So as far as politics is happening out there, I do not, indeed, most of the time, we let politics happen because we are not politicians ourselves. So when carbonization on number one day is happening out there, sometimes it's wrong to blame the regulator. Probably try to sort it from a political point of view outside there. I think that is our comment, which I know. And in regards to party hopping, I think the law is very clear. To us, once somebody has been elected on a particular party, there must be, if you want to move, then there must be the required regulations and laws on how you move from one political party to another, on how you move from one coalition to another. And that's what we have been enforcing. You tell us you want to move from one coalition to another, we tell you this is what you agreed at the coalition level. So if you don't fulfill the requirement of that coalition, then we tell you you have not moved. Then we require you to do what you are required to do. Then we allow you to move from one coalition to another, or from one party to another. The other issue I want to comment before I give Mr. Ari and Florence to finish up is the issue of the election system that we are proposing. What is it supposed to cure? Number one, we have seen during this presentation Kenyans coming and saying we want to even create more counties because we feel in the counties that we are in, we are underrepresented, or we are not able because our numbers are not enough. So what this is going to cure, when you make party lists based on a region, and we can elaborate, it means those people who are not been able to be elected, they have no constituency, for example. So they will never actually fight their way to parliament, whichever way, because their numbers cannot constitute a constituency. Then it means using party list, and you do regional list, you are able to capture those people who are outside the past the post positions. And then through the voting through party list, then you are bringing them to parliament. And that's why we are saying that is one method, how you can cure the problem of people who feel very underrepresented, the minorities in this country, who can never make a constituency to end up in parliament. That is one thing. It is also cure the issue of two-third gender rule. That is where you can put women, that's where you can put the youth, you can balance the vote so that finally you finish. And then thirdly, it's going to strengthen political parties, because political parties will propose those lists, and then political parties lists will be voted for. So even if a political party is not among the first and the second, it still have a chance to have people coming from the list being elected and going to parliament through the party list. So it has, to us, it has a lot. But we are not saying we remove the first past the post and where the constituencies are, you remain with that, then make regional list, and every vote will count. It will actually reduce wastage of vote. You can tell me those parties that get votes to the extent of even 3 million, 5 million, those votes go to waste. They don't count, because they don't even count in political parties. Fund, if they don't qualify, they don't count anywhere. So the wastage in elections in terms of vote will be minimized. Yeah, so that's why we are proposing it can cure many other things. So allow Mr. Adi.
Lucy, before you go to Ali, how does it cure equitable representation? Mm-hmm. How does it cure the problem of rural constituency, for instance, with 180,000 registered voters and a higher population being represented by one member of parliament, while another constituency that I will not name, a member is elected by 5,000 people?
Yeah, Mr. Adi will comment about that, but because there is a regionally made, we are looking after the elections, we are looking at a region, how many votes in the region, because we are saying, let's even do away with the closed party list. First of all, we are doing away with the closed party list. So after elections, it's when you look at the votes, the vote distribution. So because the lists are per region, then you distribute within the region. So you are capturing also the number of votes that have been cast in a particular region. Yeah, but Mr. Adi, please comment also about that.
Right. Thank you very much, co-chairs and members of the committee. Just 3 issues. Number one is the issue of cannibalization. I think I want to say one thing about that. Basically, we are in this space, and the political landscape of course, shows that there are a lot of wrangles within the parties. We might not call it cannibalization, but wrangles. And what we have seen is some of these issues result as a result of lack of internal democracy and lack of strong leadership. So as an office, we are building capacities of parties to have concrete ideologies, strong leadership, and internal democracy, which calls for inclusive decision making. Once that happens within political parties, then it becomes very difficult to infiltrate those parties, even by members, those who are not members of that party. So we're advocating for inclusive decision making by political parties, internal democracy, strong leadership, and a concrete ideology that all members of that party identify with. Once we have that, then it becomes very difficult for any party to be infiltrated and hence probably cannibalized. The issue of individual rights versus political rights, which was raised by Honorable Chungwa, I think Honorable Mogeni has touched on it, whatever I wanted to say. In terms of those rights, the Constitution also has mandated Parliament to come up with laws on management of political parties and those positions, and also it's one of the ways in which one loses seat. But what is important, and what we have seen in other jurisdictions, is that parties sometimes also give room for individual members to follow their conscience, provided that it is not very far from what the party believes in. So the individual consciousness of a member, which must also be respected by the party. In other jurisdictions, party usually ask every member, when they're elected, to give about 3 or 4 matters that they think are very close to them, that even if the party takes a different position, they will not be punished. If they take a different position from the party position, they will not be punished. And they usually declare that. So if we have that kind of a scenario, then we might also promote some individual consciousness of members who are also representing their voters. So there's need to be that balance between political party position and individual members' consciousness, which sometimes is also very, very important to be considered. So deeming only comes when you outrightly oppose the party ideology on all positions, not just because of one matter or two, which you followed your conscience. I think that is also covered by the Constitution. In the issue of the issue of freedom of association and rights, I think that has been captured very well. It's also a constitutional issue. And finally, the issue about the agents. I think we don't have an issue with that proposal. Agents are recognized as poll officials in the Elections Act, but also in the Political Parties Act, there's some mandate for which is given to the RPP for training of agents, because again, they are coming from political parties. So that balance is important.
Important cross-cutting issues ranging between political processes, including electoral processes, and political parties management. And we've been able to discuss with political party leadership, because a political party is represented by one member in PPLC. And yes, we've made resolutions, and we've been able to even strengthen governance of political parties through this particular forum. And as it is, I would say yes, it is structured well, because we have all the political parties represented, and we have the steering committee of PPLC. Within PPLC, we have the steering committee, which brings together all the fully registered political parties so that they also have a platform, a forum, to discuss issues on the part of the political parties, and then now brings into the bigger picture of PPLC, RPP, and IBC. However, the challenge we have noted with PPLC. Number one, it is the issue of funding, that the PPLC is not expressly financed and funded. Every time we have developed programs for PPLC, of course, with the steering committee of PPLC, we realize that the allocation given for their budget is very minimal. So a lot of the programs and activities that they would undertake and realize, the spirit of PPLC is not really realized. So it is our wish that then PPLC gets properly funded so that it can be effective by implementing the priority programs that they always come up with, but not funded. Number two is the representation of political parties in PPLC. We see that political parties are strongly represented when they are not in parliament. But the parties that are in parliament really would wish to see elected members in parliament, in Senate, coming to PPLC and representing their parties in PPLC and being able to articulate issues of their parties, even to the extent that they can be escalated to either Senate or to Parliament, so that proper legislation can be done that impacts on political parties and also electoral processes as escalated from PPLC. But we do not see that either because the members who sit in those political parties are not in touch with their members in Parliament, and therefore effective legislation therefore of issues from PPLC is not realized. So those are some of the issues that we believe if they're dealt with, then we could actually strengthen PPLC and we would see the real spirit being realized in the country of the formation of PPLC. The other issue I wanted to touch on is the issue of deeming Section 14 of the Political Parties Act, and to say that while Article 92 of the Constitution under sub-Article 3 that Parliament will make legislation, we see that legislation under Article 14 with regard to deeming of any errant political party member, especially those that are elected, but of course generally all the members. So parties who have attempted to deem members, and they have actually written to the Office of the Registrar for the expulsion of their members through the deeming process, you realize that they don't follow the due process, because the due process is clearly prescribed in the Act, Section 14. But I believe if they follow the due process, including according those members a fair hearing, then the Office of the Registrar would have no problem concluding that process. But we urge parties that they should also observe the due process. Then quickly, the issue of strengthening of ORPP. Yeah, for sure, we are not seeking this for purposes of ourselves. We have a single term of 6 years as the current office holders, and we could be very comfortable and leaving it at that. But we have a duty to make sure that this office is strengthened because of the place value it has in the strengthening of democracy in this country. And therefore, one, we seek that it be enshrined in the Constitution, not because there's been any pressure, but we believe that it rightfully belongs there, and therefore it should be entrenched there. But also, number two, the mandate, so that it can be able to effectively deliver its mandate within the space of the statutes. I would have added some more, but allow me to stop there in the interest of time. Thank you so much.
Please do.
Thank you so much. Chair, let me conclude by saying we appreciate the invite and to appear before you. Allow me only to really weigh on that issue of political rights of individuals versus those ones of a party. We other jurisdiction, and we really benchmark with others. In Europe, the parties come out with what they call programs. And when you are joining a political party or being elected under a political party, you commit to that program, that our party, in issues of taxes, we stand for this. In issues of women's rights, we stand for this. In issues of this, so that when later you come to tell me I am going outside the party, at least there's a reference that I committed to certain things. Because as Mr. Ari said, there must be a balance between political rights of a party and also political rights of an individual and political rights of the people who elected the member, because this member is also representing a constituency, so that that constituency also have a right to tell how he has a right to go and consult with the members of a constituency. So those are three things, Chairman, that must be balanced: the representative, the party interest through the party programs and what people committed to, the individual member, and also the rights of the people who elected this person, the constituent, so that he can also consult the constituents and say, this is the way our member, my people want me to represent them. I think that balance must be created. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Registrar. Maybe moving forward, what you should do is probably guide now political parties on how to do those programs and make proposals of what legislative interventions would be done for those party programs to be there. So that as I run for a seat on UDA, this is what I subscribe to.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. We have heard you, all of us. So next we have Attorney General Emeritus, Professor Gideon Muigai.